Aldo from Zero to Mastery here. In today's tutorial, we're diving into functions in Rust. Now, this isn't just any tutorial. It's part of Jayson Linen's comprehensive Rust programming bootcamp course available on Zero to Mastery. So if you want to learn Rust from scratch or simply just improve your Rust skills, click the link in the top right-hand corner or check out the description below for the full course. Alright, that's it from me. Let me hand it over to Jayson. Enjoy!
In this video, I'll be going over functions. I'll be explaining what functions are, how to make functions, and how to use functions. So what are functions? Functions are a way to encapsulate program functionality. They can optionally accept data, and they can optionally return data. They're utilized for code organization, and they also make code much easier to read. Let's take a look at the anatomy of a function. So here we have a function. It's composed of many parts, which I'll be breaking down. First, we have the fn keyword. So fn begins a new function. Next, we have the name of the function. The name could be anything as long as it does not start with a number and is not an existing keyword. So we can't make a function that's named fn because fn is already a keyword in the Rust language. Next, we have the function parameters. So the function parameters dictate what kind of data this function works with. Function parameters always begin with an open parentheses and end with a closing parentheses. The a and the b are variables that will be used within the function. After the variable name, we have a colon. After the colon, we have the type of the parameter that is accepted for this function. The function parameter type can be any type that's made by you or that's part of the Rust language. In this case, the i32 is just a 32-bit integer. You can also have multiple function parameters. You separate them with a comma, and then they follow the same pattern. Name of the variable, colon, and then the name of the type. Usually with functions, you'll accept some data through the parameters, you'll then do some calculations, and then you'll return some data. To return data, we create an arrow. The arrow is composed of a dash and a greater than symbol. We then specify the type of data that we're returning. In this case, we are returning a 32-bit integer from the function. Once the data gets returned from the function, it will be able to be used elsewhere in the program. Lastly, we have the function body. The function body is surrounded by an opening curly brace here and a closing curly brace here. Everything between these braces is called the function body. The function body for our particular function is just a plus b. So this function is going to add together an a value and a b value. We know from the function parameters that the a is a 32-bit integer and the b is a 32-bit integer. And so these 32-bit integers are represented by a and b. And within the function body, we have the a and the b. Now that we know how to make a function, let's see how we can actually utilize it in a program. So here at the top, we have our add function that we just created. And we also are creating some variables down here. So we'll take a look at this first one here. We're using let x, so we're creating a variable named x. We're setting it equal to the value returned by this function add. So when we want to use a function, it's known as calling a function. So what we're doing here when we have add, we're calling this add function. We're calling it with the values of 1 and 1. So when you call it, you have to have parentheses along with the values that are going to take the place of the parameters. These values that are provided to the function, they're called function arguments. So the argument for the a parameter is 1, and the argument for the b parameter is also 1. So when we call this add function, this one here will go into this a, this one here will go into this b. Once the function begins executing, this a will go here, this b will go here, and we'll get 1 plus 1. And that's because our a value here is a 1, and our b value here is also a 1. After this 1 and 1 get added together, we'll get a 2, And since we reached the end of the function body here, there's nothing past this point. This 2 is going to get returned. And 2 is an integer, so it's valid for an i32 integer. The number 2 is going to return here. And then the 2 will get assigned to x. So you can think of calling add with the values of 1 and 1. You can just think of this whole thing as the number 2, which is then placed into x. So our x will now be equal to 2. Let's go ahead and do another one. We'll take a look at let y equals. We're going to let the variable y be equal to the value of the function add with function arguments 3 and 0. So when we call this add function, this 3 will come up here to the a, so that will be 3. This 0 will come to the b, and that will be 0. Once execution enters this function, we have our 3 and our 0 there. So the a will come down to the a variable, the b will come down to the b variable, then we'll get 3 plus 0 is equal to 3. There's nothing left in the function, so this will return as a 3. That will then replace this portion here. So now this will be equal to 3, and then it will be assigned to the variable y, so y will be equal to 3. And let's take a look at one more. So we have let some variable z be equal to the function add. And now instead of adding numbers, we're adding another variable. So we're adding the value of the x variable with the number 1. So just a moment ago, we had the x set to the value of add 1 and 1. And we know that this ends up being 2 because we're adding 1 and 1 together. So x is equal to 2. When we call add with the variable x, this 2 from x will come over here, be populated into this x, so this will be equal to 2. And so then we're going to add 2 and 1 together. So the x is a 2 at this point. That's going to go into the a value. 1 is going to go into the b value, so that will be 2 and 1. So we have 2, 1. That will go into a. B will go into b. So get 2 plus 1 equal to 3. We then return the 3. That comes down here. This will get replaced with a 3. And z is now equal to 3. It may seem a little bit convoluted and confusing the first few times you see it, but calling functions and using functions and writing functions is fundamental to programming. So everything you make is going to be inside a function or using a function of some sort. So once you do 3 or 4 functions, you'll have the hang of it, no problem. To recap, functions encapsulate functionality. They're useful to organize code. Functions can be executed by calling the function. The function parameters determine what data a function can work with. Functions optionally return data, and that means data gets sent back from the function to be used elsewhere.
And that's a wrap on functions in Rust. A huge thank you to Jayson for guiding us through this tutorial. You found this video helpful? Imagine what you can learn in his full Rust programming bootcamp course. Again, you can find that linked in the top right hand corner and in the description down below. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on future tutorials from Jayson and other expert Zero to Mastery instructors. Alright, that's it from me. Keep learning, keep coding, and I'll see you in the next video.